Hello and welcome to a very unique video today. This isn't going to be a normal Roguebook run, but fret not, there will be a lot of new Roguebook content coming very soon. I've been playing a lot in my spare time and I've leveled up all the characters and whatnot. Everything's unlocked now, so all we've got to do is do those final challenges. So I'm going to be recording some runs very shortly. Today, however, we're going to be talking about the Roguebook design contest, and I'm going to be giving you some tips, tricks, hints on how to design cards for the competition. What is the Roguebook design competition? Well, it is obviously a competition hosted by the Roguebook team. The idea is that you have to craft a set of cards, one per character in the game. So we want 4 cards. We want Shara, Sirocco, Sypha, Cypher, and Aurora. Of course, not forgetting that Cypher needs his rage version of the card as well. So kind of almost 5 cards, but 4 cards at heart for 4 different characters. And you're going to submit them to a special website over here. Oh, over here. And people are going to look at them, vote on them. And then at the end of the competition, around beginning of September, I think it's September the 3rd, this competition is going to be closed. Obviously, all entries are going to be locked, and they are going to take the top set of cards. I don't know how many of the top cards they're going to be taking. They're going to look at them internally, and they're going to decide a winner. That's going to be the Roguebook team and Richard Garfield. So I don't know exactly what that's based on, whether it's based on, you know, how unique the card is, or how balanced it is, or really any kind of interaction there. You know, a lot of people have done their own artwork. I did my own artwork. Some people have made some incredible artwork like this here. Some people have just been using Faeria artwork to get their point across. Some people just using Roguebook artwork. So I don't think it's really an art competition, but it definitely, I like it. It makes it feel a little bit more like your idea, your card. But really, it's about the function, the form and function of the cards. What does the winner win? 2 things, actually. So the first thing is this unlimited grade 9 Black Lotus, which is phenomenal. I mean, not only is this worth a lot of money, it is worth a lot of money, but it is like, I mean, this is a nerd's holy grail, right? This is a treasure. This is something to treasure. Absolutely priceless, to be honest. Fantastic prize. Insane prize. The second one, however, is probably even more interesting. That is, your cards are going to be adapted and implemented in Roguebook. So your cards are going to make it into the Roguebook game and be, you know, forever part of Roguebook and Faeria history, which is phenomenal, super cool. And that's kind of what I really want to do as well. So I have designed my own set of cards. In fact, I've shown it there. This middle one here, the GeekKingCloud. Currently behind first place a little bit. But today I'm not going to be going over the cards that I've designed. I am going to go over those in a different video. Today it's just going to be hints, tips, tricks. There may be pitfalls to avoid for you designing your cards. Of course, if you want to go over there and vote on my set, I would very much appreciate it. But I would also recommend that you look through a bunch of other cards and you go through, I mean, I've gone through all these cards. Some of them are like mind-blowing, really cool. And I'll get into maybe some of the pitfalls that I've seen people fall into as well in a minute. But I would encourage you to go through all of these and vote for, you know, all the ones that you like. It's a lot of fun. It's been great fun so far, actually. I've invested a fair amount of time. And I think I'm fairly qualified to guide some new people in design. I've played a heck of a lot of card games, whether it's, you know, deck builders, whether it's digital deck builders, board game deck builders, or just card games in general, such as Magic the Gathering, Final Fantasy, Keyforge, Dragon Ball Z, everything, right? I need to play some Flesh and Blood at the minute. There's all sorts. So I think I'm well versed in that world, in that scene, and so I'm going to be sharing some of that experience with you right now. So, let's begin. The first major trap that I've seen people fall into or accidentally kind of stumble into is overpowered cards. Overpowered cards or underpowered cards. So, and when I go into my, I'll go into a second video where I go into my designs and I discuss it. And you know, my cards aren't perfect, of course. In fact, one of them, I think it's Sypha's, is pretty poor, actually. I would change it if I could. But for whatever reasons, it is how it is. It's not that overpowered or underpowered, though. I've seen people really, really, like, crash and burn on this. Like, seriously, they're getting 0-cost cards that do everything, or 3-cost cards that do nothing or require a really crazy setup to be able to pull off or really make use of. And that's bad, right? It's bad design. You're making a card completely worthless, or you're making a card so good that nobody's ever going to say no to it. It's always going to be good in any deck. And that's just as bad as well, because you don't want just a card breaking the game all out of nowhere. And of course, the Roguebook team don't want that either. And when they do pick the winners, they will be, like I said, adapting them into the game. So I'm sure they'll be working with the designer to craft something that makes sense and balance it a lot better. But of course, you want to have some balance initially as well, so that people understand how the card feels and vote on it, right? Is the main concept. A hint, what I would do, how do you avoid making your card overpowered, underpowered, overcosted, undercosted? Well, I'm showing you it right here. This game has a compendium. It has all of the cards available right here at your fingertips, except the starter cards, actually, which I really wish they would add for the characters up at the top. I'm not really... This should really be every card in the game. But anyway, I digress. This card shows you all you need to know. You can see Fossa Rocco, 2 mana, does 25 damage to one enemy. Fossa Rocco, 2 mana, does 15 damage to all enemies. So you know there's a trade-off here. If you're going to hit all enemies, it's 10 less, you see. 2 is worth 16 block. 2 is worth 10 block with combo. So we can kind of see how much combo is worth. You understand what I mean? And although the difference between a 0-cost and a 1-cost, 1 to 2 and 2 to 3 can differ, it's not exactly equal. You can kind of get an idea of what you're trying to look for within this, what do they call it, compendium, right? This is an encyclopedia of all of the cards. You can see, obviously, also we have normal cards, common cards, we have the rare cards, and we have the legendary or epic cards down here. And of course, that also changes the balancing, right? So what you're going to be able to do is you design a card, or you get an idea for a card. You can come here and you can see where does it land in terms of, should it be common, rare, or epic maybe, based on its, power. And then within that group, how balanced is it, right? Is it too good? Is it too, is it not strong enough? Basically, is it too weak? And then you can balance it like that. This is what I did. I found it to be incredibly valuable. I mean, you're just using what the game already has, right? Use this compendium as much as you can. Another piece of advice for the same thing, to balance the cards, right? Use the Roguebook Discord. So there's a Roguebook Discord where there's actually a channel specifically for the design contest, and people are asking, how does this card look? How does that card look? And a lot of other Roguebook fans out there are sharing their ideas. I think this looks really nice. This one might be a little bit too strong. Maybe you could do this. And they're helping each other tweak cards. It's lovely to see. The Roguebook community seems very nice and active. I mean, it's a small bunch, but they're very... they're very active in that area, and they're a lot of fun as well, and very kind of nice and welcoming. So I encourage you to do that as well if you're serious about the contest. So overpowered, underpowered cards, how do you balance them? Come to the compendium, use it, go to the Roguebook Discord, ask for advice, and use other entries. So like I said, there are some entries in the competition that maybe are a little bit underpowered, overpowered, maybe not quite there yet. But if you go through all of them like I have been doing, what you're going to see is a middle ground, right? You're going to understand just from the context within the entry, the contest itself, of which cards seem a little bit too good, which seem a little bit weak, and that's also going to help you out. So use the information already available to you. The game itself, obviously the big one, Roguebook, Discord, getting advice from other players, and then just seeing what other people have created is really going to help. Next, pitfall. Too complex or super unique to the point of being pretty much impossible to implement. So a design competition like this is a couple of things. It's interesting because you get to build something for a game that you love that the designers never even thought of, right? Or maybe they did and it was a little too complex or a little bit too outgoing, and now it's your turn to make something crazy. Well, maybe try and, reel yourself in a little bit from those ideas. What you're going to find is some people have some concepts. You're going to see this in the entries very quickly. Some people have some ideas that are just insane. They don't go with anything that's currently in the game. They are completely unique and out there, and sometimes that makes them a little bit crazy. Sometimes I don't know if they've understood how difficult it would be to pull off certain things, but the concept of making something so unique that it's, nothing like it exists in Roguebook, I don't think is what you're trying to do here. I mean, this is conjecture. If you want to go and make something like that, really special, stand out in Roguebook, go for it. I'm just saying, I believe what they're trying to do as part of the contest is make you build on what already exists, right? We already have the Roguebook game. We already have the characters in the Roguebook world, and they all have unique little bits around them, right? They all have unique abilities. They have unique strengths and weaknesses. They have personalities. Try to build on what's already there. I've seen people do a couple of things here. They have built cards that are so unique that they don't really belong to any character. They don't really feel like a character's card. So they've just give them to any character. It's kind of, hurting the theme a little bit. Or I've seen them build something that's so impossibly large to put into the game. It would be an entire new system, an entire new mechanic, that it's also very unlikely to get chosen because it's just not feasible to add in a reasonable time frame. It would be an entire huge task for a full development team to implement. This game already has a structure. They already have cards in there. We have gems. We have the interactions built. Why not build on what's already there and make something interesting? Or, go a little bit out of the box. Don't try to build cards for an imaginary fifth character. Don't try to, go too far out of the realm of what's already here. These characters are built like this for a reason. They play together very well for that reason. Build on what's already there. Make it special in that way. That's my advice. Yeah, build on what's there and on the characters themselves specifically, whether it's thematically or, their unique little traits that they have. Next pitfall is connected or dependent sets. This is another one I've seen. I see a lot of the set of the 4 cards going up that have interactions with each other. So maybe it's you have both these cards in your hand and it's going to do something awesome like some special team attack. Well, think about it. There are 50 cards per character in this game. You're adding 1 card per character. You've got to find that card. Then you've got to find this other card. Then you have to somehow draw them at the same time or have them around at the same time. Having these cards too reliant on each other doesn't fit what is currently in the game. It's going to be very hard to pull off anything around them. And I've seen this on a couple of cards. I think I saw one with a keyword that just gets other cards with the same keyword on it. It's interesting. It's probably not going to trigger as often as you think it is. And then making it really strong to make up for the, the lack of consistency just makes it more of a gamble than anything else, but like a real just rolling the dice and hoping that you get both cards. It's not balanced enough in the sense that it's maybe not a fun interaction, or it's not as fun as you initially think it may be. That's another. I think that's a big one. I've seen a lot of cards, sets, entries that have uploaded doing that. Next piece of advice: use similar language. Once again, Roguebook already exists. The keywords already exist. We know what each character kind of does. Look at this. We have charge. We know what charge does, right? We have rage. We know what rage does. We know what a brute is, what aggressive allies are, right? We know that Sifa likes to has cards that take away some life for a big attack, right? So he's kind of sacrificing some of his own HP, which is his entire character, right? I'm getting hit to gain rage to do something big. They all have a theme around them. Rocco is a big blocker, right? Aurora really plays with things that aren't really even in combat. She's playing with the mana. She's playing with drawing cards. She's playing with utility, right? Shara getting the daggers. The power of being in front as a leader and doing big damage before retreating to the back line so she doesn't take a really damaging hit. they all have these unique flavors to them. And using the similar language on the cards is going to help people see where your cards fit within the realm of Roguebook, right? If your character has combo, gain 1 courage, don't try to write out what combo is. Don't say you get 1 mana at the end of the turn. We already have, of course, the keywords for that. Try to use the keywords. But then on top of that, write what it does as well, right? Like, write what the card does in a similar fashion to this. Whenever a hero attacks this turn, gain 3 block. Don't try to scramble those words up. Gain 3 block whenever a hero does damage to an enemy this turn. It makes it confusing. We're already familiar with how the jargon and the language of the game works. Don't try to rewrite that, right? And once again, the compendium is going to be your best friend for that. You should think about your idea and then come back and rewrite it based on the text here. If something happens until the end of the turn, how is that done here? At the start of your turn, that's done like that, right? If something's going to be done at the end of the turn, think of a card, what happens until the end of the turn? Maybe gaining some power somewhere. So each time the heroes swap this turn, it doesn't say until the end of this turn, it just says swap this turn. Every card you play this turn, right? So maybe that's how you should follow the structure of writing the cards. This is going to do a couple of things. One, it's going to help everybody else looking at your cards instantly feel that familiarity, like this sounds like a Roguebook card, and it's going to help them internalize what your card does very quickly, and because of that, they can kind of get a gut feeling of where these cards lie in terms of, you know, power level, usability, and how interesting the interaction is, right? Because they're familiar with all of these other cards. And secondly, it's also going to do the same for you as the designer, and then you're going to know to tweak it or not, because you're going to be comfortable with, okay, if this card has ranged, it should do this. If this card has melee, it should be like that. It's going to feel familiar, and you're going to have a better grip on what your card is actually doing. Next, try to make a solid set. Okay, so I saw this a lot in the Discord. Somebody like, I have an amazing Sifa card or Aurora card, right? I'm super pumped about it. This is what it does. They want to submit it because, just interjecting here, I didn't mention you can enter as many times as you want into the competition, but what you're doing, obviously, is you're going to split votes, and secondly, you're pulling away some of the better cards to add to other sets, and you're going to have an unbalanced, not in the terms of power level, but an unbalanced in the terms of how just good, all-around, fun, interactive your cards are, right? So somebody, oh, I have an amazing Aurora card. I just want to enter it into the competition as soon as possible. Whatever, Shara, Sirocco, Sifa, they just do this, right? I just want to enter this. Well, that's not what the competition's about. It's about which set of cards is the best, not which singular card is. So try to design a bunch of cards, see what you like from each character, take the best from each one and make a set out of that, right? And you can make multiple sets, but try not to add a really good card to just fluff. You need something that's interesting across the board, right? Every character needs to have something. And that's, I think that's really important, to be honest. I think that's more important than maybe I've put on this list here, because it's just something you don't really think about straight away. You just want to design, throw that set up, try to get your best cards all bundled up together for a better chance, right? Then, all right, this is how I tested my cards. So very interesting. I took my designs of my cards, so I wrote them all up on a Google sheet like this. I would put them up on my second monitor over here, and I would kind of assign a card in my deck in a Roguebook run. So I would do a run with the character that I just designed the card for, and then, you know, a secondary character, whoever. I would try to build around the card that I designed. So, for example, my card with Shara uses daggers. So I tried to build a dagger deck, right? And then I'd assign like a card. So, for example, Bravery, right? Every time I draw Bravery, I'm going to imagine that it's my card that I've written, and I'm going to read through it, and I'm going to ask myself, would I play this right now, right? So it's kind of like you're fake implementing your own card into the game. You're asking yourself at all these points every time you draw Bravery as if it was your own card, would this be good for me right now? And what I found with one of my Sifa cards when I did this is I would never use this card. I'm never going to use this card. Why not? I just never felt like the right time. Okay, I need to wait an extra turn. I need to set it up a little better. I don't want to waste the card. It's not the right time. And I ended up doing that throughout the entire run. By the end of the run, I just rejected the card design. I just felt this is never going to be useful. It never was useful for an entire run. Let's start again, right? Then there's the opposite way. I think it was my Aurora card. I looked at it and I was like, I'm going to use this every single time I draw it. That's kind of how I felt. And it had to be kind of balanced out, right? So that's a really nice way of just testing your card out almost without having to somehow mod it into the game or whatever. It's a way of fake implementing it and just ask yourself the question, would I use it right now? How frequently am I using it? Am I using it because it's the best card in this situation, or it's because, you know, it's the only card I have, or just because it's decent, right? That's the things that you're asking yourself. If this card is just like, this is always amazing, you know it's broken, it's too OP. If this card is, like I say, never feels like the right time, maybe it's not quite powerful enough, or mechanically it's just not quite where it needed to land. That really helped out with my design. I did that several times with each of the characters, so wholeheartedly recommend that method. And then finally, this one's a little bit of a weird one. Make your cards sooner rather than later. And now I'm not saying rush to get an entry in, but what I am saying is this competition goes all the way to September. And if you enter, you know, a set of cards by middle August or the end of August, you're going to have 1 week to get the same amount of votes as somebody who's had 2 months to get. You understand? So it's better to do it now rather than later. Try to get it done probably by the end of July so that you have all of August to try and, you know, get people to vote for you. Don't sacrifice design for this. But you need to get it out there, right? You need to probably, maybe if it's taking too long, invest a little bit more time in it, get it out there. Once it's out there, you can relax, you're done, right? The whole concept behind it is you can be accruing votes throughout all this time that you're dilly-dallying, you know what I mean? And that's really not a design, that's not really a design thing that I'm kind of advising. It's more just, how do you win the competition kind of thing, you know what I mean? Like, you need a chance to get votes. You're not just going to get them all in one day. You need a chance for them to accrue over time. That's going to be the best way to do it. So that's going to be it for this video. I think we've covered a lot. Let me just run through this list very, very quickly. We've got overpowered or underpowered cards. What do I do about it? Use the compendium. Use the current entries in the design competition. Use the Roguebook Discord. Ask for advice. Ask friends for advice if they're also familiar with card games and whatnot, right? Next, too complex or super unique mechanically to the point of probably being too obscure. First is probably might not be very thematic to either a character or Roguebook in general. And then secondly, it may just be impossible to implement or very, very difficult to implement, and it's not going to happen, right? So what I would recommend here is build on what's there already, build on what's already here, what each character has, and make something, you know, spicy out of what's already there for each character. You don't need to make something really out there and then just assign it to a character. Think about what is good for Shara, what does she like to do, how can I make a card that's interesting but still fits who she is and what she does, right? What her decks do. Next, too reliant on the set being dependent on itself. They are too connected. They are dependent on each other. They're reliant on having, you know, multiple cards. There are too many cards in the game. That's not going to happen with a set of 4 cards. It's too obscure. It's difficult to trigger. We don't have, you know, one dagger, like one or 2 dagger cards in Shara's deck. There are a bunch because you need to be able to get them all together. Now imagine having to do that for 2 characters at the same time. You understand? It's very difficult to balance that. You don't know if it's going to be balanced because it's just so random. It's like a big gamble. So try to not connect the cards too much. You know, think a little bit more specific to characters once again, I think. Build on what's there is still my advice. Next, use similar language, the jargon that's already in the game. Try to replicate it. You know, we already are familiar with that. So is everybody who's going to be voting on this. It's going to be very gut feeling on how good this card is and what it does. It makes it a lot easier to design. It makes it a lot easier for the Roguebook team to look at it once the cards have kind of gone through as well, right? And understand what does this do. Try to make a solid set. So don't just pick one really awesome card and then add 3 fluff characters just to get an entry on the website. Try to build a good card for each character, right? And maybe one of your cards are weaker than the others. Mine, for sure, Sifa is the weakest. I had some trouble kind of coming up with some ideas, and I have some rejected ones that maybe in hindsight I should have, you know, I should have put forward for the contest instead. But, you know, what's done is done, and I'll go over that in, like I said, my second video. But basically, try to make a solid set of all the different characters. Don't just focus on 1 or 2 really good ones. Next, use the game mechanic test, like the kind of method that I was talking about. Pretend your card's in the game. Ask yourself, is this good? Would I use it in this situation? How would I balance it out? And finally, enter sooner rather than later. It's already getting to be, you know, it's 2/3 the way through July. There's 1 month left in the competition. All this time you could be getting votes. If you're going to be submitting late, you're not going to have a chance to, you know, get pushed to the top. And that's it. If you have any questions or comments, ask them either in the comments down below, ask them on Twitter. The links are in the description. That's Dark Zero Twitter or my Twitter directly. We have a Discord where you can come and ask. I'm in the Roguebook Discord if you want to ping me as well. You know my name everywhere online, GeekKingCloud. If you want to go support me and the designs that I've done, please do so. I'd very much appreciate it. I'll obviously have the link for the competition below as well. And thanks for watching. Like I said, I'll have a video soon about my designs and why I chose to do what I did, and then tweaks that I would make in retrospect. But once again, I kind of wanted to get the cards out, and I've built in some balancing mechanics in the cards anyway. So, you know, if I did end up winning, I'm sure we could balance those out fairly quickly as well. So we'll get to that video in the future. But until then, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.